Well, Ray, I have to tell you something. Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Chinatown. Oh, sorry, that was a bad one. I'm your host, Red Drum Arts. Wanted you to introduce yourselves.
My name is Patty.
And I'm Lugia. Hi. What was the joke?
There was no joke. I was just like,
Why'd you laugh?
I don't know. Just that was like an awkward transition. I don't know. I just started cracking up for no reason. Forget about his Chinatown. Anyway, let's jump right into the news. Steve Albini passed away. Are you guys familiar with Steve Albini?
I believe so. I need to look up what he did though.
I don't
He
recognize him.
is he's basically a legendary record producer. You know,
Okay.
one of my friends joked that he's best known as the guy who produced all the records you eventually grew out of. But yeah, he's hugely influential on the post-hardcore, the noise rock scene, and the grunge movement. He produced records for Nirvana, the Pixies. He founded the band Big Black, which is probably his like independent project that people know the most about. So I don't know if you guys ever heard about the song Atomizer. I mean, the album Atomizer, or songs about fucking. Yeah, that was him. And yeah, he's very prolific. Like probably one of the most prolific record producers ever in terms of alt rock. His stamp on the alt rock scene is pretty undeniable. You know, going through his credits, he's got a fucking lot. You know, In Utero is probably like the most famous thing he's done. The Nirvana album. You know, song at the end of Fight Club, that was him. Had a bunch of other good songs. So rest in peace, Steve Albini. Yeah, this week was I guess especially bad in terms of super influential artists because Roger Corman also passed away, and he's genuinely probably the most important American filmmaker like ever. Like his influence is like it's huge. He's been like called the Pope of pop cinema, the spiritual godfather to New Hollywood, the king of cult. He's a legend. You know, type of dude that gets like an honorary Academy Award. So, here are a list of directors that he has directly responsible for mentoring and giving their start to. Francis Ford Coppola, Ron Howard, Martin Scorsese, Jonathan Demme, Peter Bogdanovich, Joe Dante, John Sayles, and James Cameron. We have talked about most of these filmmakers, and we're going to talk about the ones that we didn't, that I, eventually. He's also notable for being the first dude to distribute a lot of foreign films into America. So here are some directors that he's distributed in America: Federico Fellini, Ingmar Bergman, Francois Truffaut, and Akira Kurosawa. Also, the guy who first brought over Miyazaki. That one's a bit more infamous. Warriors of the Wind is probably one of his more infamous things that he was involved with. It's still one of the first real like gateways to anime. And he was also very influential on again New Hollywood in general. I mean, I already mentioned all the New Hollywood directors he directly influenced, but he also helped launch the careers of actors like Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, Bruce Dern, Diane Ladd, William Shatner, and probably the most relevant for today's episode, Jack Nicholson. And you guys have actually probably seen him a few times because a lot of the directors that he's and actors that he's given a star to, they featured him in his movies. You guys remember in Godfather Part 2, the senator that was kind of grilling Michael?
In
That
the
scene?
courtroom scene, like,
The senator is him. That was Roger Corman
oh really?
who played the senator. Yeah. While we're at it, might as well jump into the film today. So I mentioned last episode that this came out the same year as Godfather Part 2. Jack Nicholson got his career, came out the same year as Godfather Part 2. 1974 is real strong year for kind of representing Roger Corman's influence. So let's jump to the fruits of it. So Chinatown was a film from 1974, directed by Roman Polanski. Very controversial director, but this was before most of his controversies, but not all of them. Not the one you guys probably know him from. We can get into that later, especially when I talk about the themes. But yeah, basically, in 1971, producer Robert Evans offered Robert Town, a bunch of money to adapt The Great Gatsby, and Evans and Town basically asked Evans to write his own story called Chinatown. Evans, Town, and Jack Nicholson are all very close friends, and their careers kind of rose up together, alongside Corman, of course, which is one of many reasons Jack actually took the film because Jack Nicholson was the reason I mentioned The Godfather is because Jack Nicholson was actually offered the role of Michael Corleone. I think I mentioned this during our Godfather episode.
Yeah,
I
I
mentioned
remember
that,
you
right?
talking about this.
Yeah. Well, this was the movie he turned it down for. So yeah, a lot of this was pretty interesting. A lot of it's kind of like a lot of very kind of politics between kind of a very intimate circle of people. Rejecting one Corman disciple. One Corman disciple rejects another Corman disciple, so he can go work with other people that he came up with around the same time. I think everything worked out pretty well. And I don't imagine Jack Nicholson's performance as Michael Corleone would have been nearly as effective. Yeah, I think Nicholson was much more suited for this role than for Michael Corleone. And I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm going to assume you people agree. You guys agree?
More or less, yeah.
So yeah, the character of Hollis Mulray was inspired and loosely based on Irish immigrant William Mulholland, according to Mulholland's granddaughter. So yeah, he was the superintendent chief engineer of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and yeah, it's kind of known as kind of like the one of the guys that kind of really built Los Angeles. But even though Hollis Mulray, he's pretty minor in the film, and he was the guy that got killed in the early part of the movie. The events of Mulholland's life were portrayed through both the character of Mulray and other figures in the movie. The portrayal, along with other changes to actual events that inspired Chinatown, such as the time frame, which was like about 30 years earlier than that of the movie, where some liberties. So basically, like this movie is like kind of loosely inspired by kind of the legacy of William Mulholland. Town wrote the screenplay with Nicholson in mind. Polanski first learned about the script through Nicholson, as they had been searching for a project. Nicholson wanted to work with Polanski for a while because at that point he was pretty legendary. The producer Roger Evans was excited at the thought that Polanski's direction would create a more darker and more cynical, almost kind of European vision of the United States. Polanski, though, was initially reluctant to return to LA to make this film because okay, you guys probably know this. His wife was Sharon Tate. He was still kind of severely traumatized by that event, but he decided to sign on because the script was so strong. And there's a lot of elements of the script that kind of makes his input in the filmmaking interesting and in a kind of fucked up way. People always say separate the artist from the art from the artist, but like you would with any film, sometimes a lot of things are kind of connected.
It's hard to like separate that.
It's not that it's hard to separate. Is that like undeniably when you're gonna talk about a film, the artist is just gonna get mentioned, and Polanski was kind of like a fucked up person who exploited some women, and so was the villain of this movie. And the fact that this film does like such a good kind of depiction of kind of the seedy underbelly of LA, it probably helps that the guy who directed it will kind of understand that psychology a bit, in a sort of fucked up way. Town wanted to cross and die and Evelyn Mulray to survive, but the screenwriter and director argued over it. Polanski insisted the tragic ending was basically why he knew Chinatown was going to be special and not just another thriller where the good guy, triumphs. Says the movie doesn't work unless Evelyn dies. Spoiler alert, though I highly doubt anyone's watching this that doesn't already know. The original script was about 180 pages and included a narration by Gitz, but Polanski cut and reordered the story so the audience and Gitz unravel the mystery at the same time. Oh, also some, just some fun facts. J.J. Gitz was named after Nicholson's friend and producer Harry Gitz. Evelyn Mulray was intended to seem like a classic Black Widow character in film noir, but is revealed to be a victim. This movie is kind of trying to subvert and kind of deconstruct a lot of film noir archetypes. Noah Cross. Town said that Huston was, after Nicholson, the best cast actor in the film. That's just something fun. And Polanski appears in a cameo as the gangster who cuts Gitz's nose. The effect was accomplished with a special knife, but could not have actually cut Nicholson's nose if Polanski had not held it correctly. Oh no, the knife could have actually cut Nicholson's nose, but if Polanski had not held it correctly, which I guess is why Polanski, decided to, do that part because if you're gonna have a risk like that, might as well make sure the director's the one doing it. In 1974, after making Chinatown and while filming The Fortune, Nicholson was informed by Time magazine researchers that his sister was actually his mother, which is a pretty insane parallel. Same year the movie comes out, you find out that you basically have the same relationship as the main two characters that the entire fucking movie surrounds,
That's pretty
Yeah.
fucked.
Let's jump into the story. So in 1937, a woman identifies herself as Evelyn Mulray, hires a private investigator, Jake Gitz, to trail her husband Hollis, which she suspects of infidelity, and Hollis is chief engineer at the LA Department of Water. Yeah, it's basically just kind of a standard kind of noir story, and then sort of a bunch of twists and turns. Eventually we kind of learn Evelyn's father, Noah Cross, is kind of a monster. Noah Cross is a monster, and he's sort of revealed to sort of be the actual kind of like villain of the thing, and there's sort of this kind of like overwhelming kind of dread with the film that like they're not going to be able to beat this guy, and they also reveal that he's basically been sexually abusing his child and granddaughter, and also his granddaughter is like the product of incest, so it's technically also his daughter. It's fucked up. It's real fucked up.
It also kind of
And,
hurts that he gets away with it too. Like even at the end, because even though
Yeah.
Evelyn
Yeah,
dies, he still keeps Kathleen. Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Catherine,
the
right?
movie's over. Evelyn's dead. Catherine is in custody of, her dad / grandfather. Yuck. And like the town, like the valley is gonna be wiped out for the water. So I'm like,
the loser,
okay.
the main character just loses. It's also. I just realized, I made you guys watch like The Great Silence not too long ago. Yeah, sorry, I did it again. Oops.
I was reminded more of Blowout, but yeah, that too.
I mean, Blowout is a noir, so obviously, yeah, fits Blowout more. I mean,
well, the main character
this probably
doesn't just
influenced
straight
Blowout.
up die, but like there are implications that this is a bad ending.
Yeah, and I mean, there is also like one of like the most compelling things about the ending to me is the fact that like Jake could have saved them, but he tried to bite off more than he could chew, and it fucked everything up. Which that's like such a bitter fucking pill to swallow. I was like, ah, damn it. He wanted to be the hero, and because like he was focused on being the hero and taking down everything, he lost a chance to actually, protect them. And
It caused a stir within the department too, when they were against him.
part of it almost kind of reminded me of have you seen the new Batman movie, The Batman by Matt Reeves?
Not yet.
No.
I've been wanting to, but I just haven't.
I remember when I watched that movie, I thought this is like if Chinatown had like the good ending. That one has like one where he like wins, but it's also like a little bit bittersweet because he also kind of like loses like something. So yeah, I thought this was interesting to me. Like the ending was so interesting to me because like, I mean, again, to bring up Batman, it's kind of like the Dark Knight kind of thing where he was like, all right, either save Harvey or save Rachel. Here it's like, save them or, like cut your losses and just save these two, or, go for, the big fish and try to take him completely down. And because he went for the big fish and he fucking lost everything. Just like how Batman, he lost everything. They didn't win. Again, of course, the Dark Knight went on for like an extra half hour, so there was like, so he did like win in a sense, but like, again, I mean, those are superhero movies. This isn't noir, so it's just oddly, this film reminded me of some Batman movies. Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, the ending is kind of like the main thing, I guess, to talk about. But you guys have any thoughts about the rest of the film? I guess.
I think it was very reckless of Jake, even though he was warned multiple times, both verbally and physically, that he shouldn't be trespassing on the property. Like, he still did it anyway. Like, I get it. He's a private investigator. Like, he needs to. But at the same time, it's like, you already got fucked up once. You're gonna get fucked up again. And this time it's gonna be even worse because you were already warned. And it turns out...
you might not leave with your nose next time.
No, but he did get the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah.
He did.
See, like, I think what makes like the ending hit so hard for me is like the fact that when you actually like look back on it, you're kind of like, you see exactly how everything like kind of fell this way, and you can see like certain turning points where Jake could have done something different, and because he didn't, it ended up this way. So I guess just brass tacks. I guess what was what did you think? I guess when you first saw the ending, I guess like as the movie was going along, like 'cause I think Luga, you mentioned that you kind of like realized partway through that like this wasn't going to be a happy ending.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to know what like I guess your kind of experience watching the movie, trying to start piecing things together.
As a whole, I thought it was all right, but I don't think like the real intrigue starts until after Holland dies, where it just becomes like it goes from a story where Jake has to clear his name because he essentially falsely accused Holland for cheating on his wife to a murder mystery. It was kind of interesting to see it go to like that angle, like just at a 180. But it also
That's honestly a bit of a noir trope. Honestly, it always starts off as like investigating something smaller, and then some major twist happens,
but
and
at the
it
same
unravels into something
time,
large.
it also places less emphasis on the imposter. I believe her name was Ida.
Ida,
Ida
yeah, I
Sessions.
think so. Yeah, Ida
Sessions,
Sessions, Diane Ladd.
Because like because once the story shifts focus to that, the fact that there was an imposter kind of doesn't mean anything anymore. And even though she does
Okay.
show up a couple times throughout the movie,
Okay, yeah.
what?
All right. So here's the funny thing. That's just a film noir trope. That's not even like that's not even like exclusive thing to this movie. That's just how film noirs are. Yeah. The funny thing about film noirs is even though they're always like hard-boiled detective stories, the mystery like never really matter that much. Like almost every noir classic has like stuff like that where there's just like some loose plot line that like it kind of like started the whole thing, but like it's ultimately like not that important. And yeah, it's kind of funny that like you actually like kind of pointed that out because like a lot of people just kind of like miss that. But, like yeah, that's how film noirs just work basically. Yeah, that's how most of the classics work. So yeah, the subversive stint on this was more of like the stuff that kind of came after that stuff. That stuff is actually like pretty par for the course.
I don't. Okay, so I saw Maltese Falcon recently. I don't remember it doing something like that.
Maltese Falcon might not be like one of them, but like the guy who actually wrote Maltese Falcon, like some of his other stories got like a similar thing where like there's characters and like plot lines that just kind of like get dropped once they kind of stop being like their importance is kind of like superfluous. He even like mentioned I think the author it was either Raymond Chandler or Dashiell Hammett. I can't remember who did it, but one of these big noir writers, they mentioned that ultimately the actual plot doesn't matter. It's most of these detective things are more of just like about the characters and the
And
setting
it's more
rather than
about
like the
piecing
actual.
things as you go. But at the same time, that
As,
that
as,
still
lo- as
felt
long as like as long as in every moment you kind of understand what the stakes are, it's like with like a James Bond movie or something. Like no one really understands the plots, but like what's like the stakes are. Again, like these film noir things, they aren't like real mystery films. Like not like how an Agatha Christie thing would do it. It's really more of like more about exploring something. It's fine if you don't like it though. It's just that's just the genre.
it just felt like there was a loose end that wasn't tied. Well, I say
Yeah.
that, and then she dies. So
Lugia, let me ask: at what point did you realize the ending wasn't going to be happy?
by the time we found out about Catherine,
And how she relates to everything?
yes.
Ah.
I don't know if we should like just go into that subject or just dance around it.
Yeah, fuck it, let's go into
All
it.
right.
So,
It
I
is
mentioned this earlier.
disturbing, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it does highlight how fucked up of a person Noah Cross is and like why you should hate him. Because like before, when he was being
Yeah.
questioned by Jake, you could kind of tell he was just kind of deflecting back the questions that he was asking, and he would always like say, "Okay, go find the girl. Just go find the
Just
girl,
find
Jay.
the
Come
girl.
on, just
Find
go."
the girl. Just go find her.
So you could tell
Yeah.
something was up, but when they lay that on you, it's like, oh,
Yeah, and here's the
no.
fucked up thing. Contextually, for the time, this probably hit even harder because remember, most film noirs were made during the Hays Code, so those were censored as hell. Like the actual novels got like real dark like this, but like the movies didn't. So this must have been so shocking for audiences in 1974 because like other film noirs were so censored it could never go there, even if in the actual book it had that, you know. So like there's some other like noir classics that would have like an element like this, but they would never like they'd never say it. Like they basically just cut out that plot detail just because it wasn't allowed.
Would they leave it up to interpretation, or would they just straight up replace it with something else?
Most of the time, it would just be straight up cut. Some directors would like push to do implication, but like usually not for something like this. Usually for something else. But like, no, like Hays Code stuff, they would just cut shit like this out. I mean, you mentioned the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon is the one you saw, the 1941 with the
Yes.
Bogart. That's actually a remake because the original Maltese Falcon from 1931 was before the Hays Code, so it was a lot racier, and so they're like, all right, we're gonna remake it, and because you know we can't play this movie anymore, and it was successful, and if we're gonna need to like hire the best actors, the best directors, the best everything, so that way this movie is just objectively better than the original. That way no one will be upset that we had to censor it, you know, that kind of deal. That was kind of like what was going on with the Maltese Falcon. I don't remember what they censored from that movie though, but like, yeah, that you know.
Because that movie definitely felt a lot more sanitized, at least in comparison to this movie. Because again, I just have like those two movies to compare.
Yeah, I think the 31 movie like mentioned homosexuality, and there was like other stuff like that, which you know isn't like you know that racy by today's standards, but you know 31 even in the 70s, you know, that was kind of a bit shocking. Eddie, what did what did you think of the film and the ending and kind of the I don't know.
In general, well, like I said, I was not expecting the ending to go where it did. I was not expecting all the twists that happened, and certainly was not expecting that the villain would just straight up get away with everything and that the hero would be completely defeated. I was like, okay. So that, like, when the credits came up, I was like, oh, okay. So it's just done here. All right, you're fucked. Goodbye. So yeah, if you're looking for a feel-good movie, no, this ain't it. It's Chinatown. But you know, aside from all that, I had a pretty good time with this movie. I liked the performances from the two leads, Jack Nicholson especially. I thought he had a good amount of wit to him.
Yeah, I thought
I liked
Noah
the art
Cross was
direction.
fucking like, oh my god. I know like you were talking about the two leads, but like Noah Cross's performance was like, Jesus Christ, what a creepy fucking slime ball! Holy shit.
I'm not undermining him either. He was great too. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that's
sense.
the one that. Yeah, I mean, I think like those three were like definitely because like Faye Dunaway, I think is like she's got to be one of the greatest like actress like ever. I think she's like phenomenal in everything I've seen her in.
I
And
don't think
yeah,
I've ever seen Jack Nicholson play a protagonist role. Like, has he ever done a movie where he was the protagonist, or?
yeah, I mean he's done a lot of movies. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Last Detail.
Because I've always seen him as the antagonist or like a side character.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, his most famous movies, he's the villain, like the Shining, Batman.
A Few
those are
Good
probably his
Men.
most famous ones. Yeah, A Few Good Men. But no, he's done that. It's this, The Last Detail, About Schmidt.
I'm gonna come out of completely left field
As
here.
good as it gets. Yeah.
When I think Jack Nicholson, the first movie I think of is Anger Management.
I've never seen that movie.
I've never even
I
heard
saw
of
that
it.
movie. It's an Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, okay.
Basically, Jack Nicholson spends the entire movie making Adam Sandler's life hell, which, depending on who you are, that could be a good thing, but he does, like, nothing to deserve it. And I just remember the entire time I was watching it, I just wanted to strangle him.
Who, Jack Nicholson or Adam Sandler?
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
And I think it's funny. I think the first movie we talked about, the second movie we talked about, The Departed, and he was the villain of that. So yeah,
That is true.
most of the movies you've seen, he played the villain. But no, he plays a lot of leads. I mean, he was leading this one. The very next year, he won Best Actor for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where he was the lead. So yeah, Last a Tale, which came out the same year as this, he also played the lead. So yeah, a couple. I guess most of his lead roles were during the '70s. I guess more than later, but he's had some stuff later. You know, As Good as It Gets. That was the '90s. About Schmidt. That was just a few years after. So yeah, yeah. I guess most of his iconic stuff is villain work.
Other than the performances, as I was saying, I like the art direction. Like this movie is set during when it's they're going through a drought, and you can see that with the colors. Like this movie looks
Like, it's
incredibly dry.
dry.
It's dry
Yeah,
as fuck.
This is gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous fucking film. It's got the like sepia tone, but it's got that like really specific kind of sepia tone where like it's like it doesn't like I feel like a lot of sepia tone it just makes everything kind of like burnt and sandy, but like here like you still see the blue skies, like the deep greens and stuff. Like it's still got color to it, but it's got that kind of like sandy feel. It's like I don't know. I really like
It's
the
like
use
the
of color in
saturation
this.
on certain colors is just muted a smidge, but it's still noticeable.
This is something incredibly minor, but something that caught my attention was in the musical score, whenever you hear the piano, it's either played entirely down the octave or entirely up the octave.
I don't even know what that means.
It means the piano is either played on the low keys or the high keys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
I know what you're saying. I don't know if he does, but like I got you.
that just stood out to me. Like it's almost never played in the middle C section. It's either like do 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 or
I would never have noticed that, but
on the music.
Yeah.
So of course I noticed.
You know, we mentioned like the set design and stuff and just like how it looks. I feel like the setting is like as big a character as much as like because like you know we mentioned like it feels like a drought, but like I also feel like it feels so seedy. Like it's like a nice looking like setting, but like constantly throughout you're like this just feels like a really seedy kind of corrupt area, even though like the actual environments look nice. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
really
yeah.
impressed me. Like the fact that like whole throughout, I'm like, God, this feels like such kind of like a gross place. Even though like objectively it looks nice, but like throughout, like I'm constantly just thinking, it's like it's so clear like a corrupt kind of area. And there's always just like a little bit of a glimmer of hope, but obviously, hope doesn't pan out.
Not here.
Yeah.
Not in this movie.
Weird thing is though, is like even though the hope doesn't pan out, it doesn't feel like feel as cynical to me as it would on the surface. Like the ending isn't unsettling to me just cause the villain wins, but because like I think I said this earlier, but like it's because he could have won. Like that's the main thing that like sticks with me. Like the fact that like he bit off more than he can chew, and that's like the main reason he lost. Like he could have saved them, but rather than accept a small victory, he wants like the big one, and he dooms those innocent women to their fate. So yeah, I thought it was a good portrayal of a gray world.
The makeup on Evelyn's dead body with that hole where her eye's supposed to be, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. Oh fuck! I just realized like every movie I've recommended you guys like the last like few, they're all just like bleak endings or like people die. It's like oh great silence. Oh
Why are you
people die,
doing this to
Chinatown.
me?
Oh like literally the last movie I recommended was Honor Majesty's Secret Service, and I didn't like. I just realized now that I just recommended 2 movies in a row where it ends with a woman getting her head shot off. It was like Jesus Christ, I didn't mean for this to be that way, and I was like, oh shit. And like the other movie I was gonna recommend was what like Goodfellas, and like that's a bleak fucking like movie too. Like Jesus Christ. All right, I'll think of something happy.
No more bleakness from you for a while. You've done your bleak fill.
We had the Music Man, all right. We balancing it out.
That's
So
my
from
choice.
you-
That was my choice.
I know
I'm
it
talking
wasn't
about
me.
you.
But like, I'm talking
I'm
like
talking about you.
overall we're
No more
having
bleak
happiness.
films from you for a while.
Overall we've had happiness, all right. We followed up
You've
like
lost your
yeah, all right. I'll think of. If you guys want a happy a version of this story with the happier ending, watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was actually inspired by this movie. I'm not kidding. Did you guys notice
Yeah, a little
the
bit.
parallels?
other than like the villain wants to wipe out a valley, the only big Roger Rabbit influence I got was from the opening scene.
I mean, I also kind of got the idea that like I think one of the big influences is the fact that like you're supposed to think that like the lady is like some black widow, some seductress, and then you find out later that they're not. They're just a regular woman. Like, Jessica Rabbit's like, oh, I'm just drawn that way. Like, you're kind of meant to be suspicious of her. But then you just learn that, like, no, she's just a nice lady. And here it's like, oh, you think that she's a Black Widow, she might be like involved in this, and like, no, she's just a victim. Like, she's absolutely, there's nothing wrong with her. One thing I thought was interesting about the plotting was so it's this layered complex mystery, and as the mystery unravels, instead of it being like satisfying, it's just incredibly messy. And I think that really fits well with the lead, who's clever, but he always like falls a bit short. He's always pushing his luck. Like again, like and I think you mentioned this, Lugia, but like he pushes his luck a lot, and it always has consequences.
Like, again,
And
he's always like going to these areas where he shouldn't be trespassing, and there are serious repercussions for that.
and I guess I might as well just rip off this band-aid. I thought on the meta level this was pretty fascinating because like this is a movie about like a woman who gets victimized. He basically like made this like he was hesitant to make it at first because his wife was murdered. And like I don't know, I think there's probably some like interesting like venting like kind of psychological shit you can read into this, and especially because of like the crime he later got found of doing like just like a year or two later. Like it's kind of like there's almost like a weird tragedy where he kind of becomes what he criticizes. Is like I don't really have any more comments really.
I think I've said my piece.
Same here.
You like the score, talked about the cinematography, acting. Went into a pretty good thematic breakdown, so I like when we do that. So yeah. If you like this film, I think we mentioned it before, but check out some other classic film noir, LA Confidential, LA Noir, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Under the Silver Lake, I don't know, Inherent Vice, Long Goodbye, stuff like that. Oh, if you like this, check out the movie Night Moves, which came out just the year after this. That one was great film, even though it's not as well known. I actually saw that relatively recently, so yeah, I just want to shout that one out. So yeah, Night Moves.
I also thought of Rango, but only because they're both about a drought.
The villain of Rango, like I don't know if you guys know this, but the villain of Rango always reminded me of the villain from Monsters Inc. Like this is completely random, but like yeah. And also the plot of Rango
Yes.
reminds me of Three Amigos, except
I
it's
guess
one
it
guy
has
instead of
been-
three.
It has been years since I last saw Rango.
I only saw Rango once when it first came out.
I remember it holding up. Like Rango's weird because like it's kind of generic, but like it's got like enough really odd things about it that makes it like kind of stand out. Like it's a bit of a generic western, but then it's got like these moments, and it's like, all right, like it's like a cut above, like a standard western. No, that's what I'd say. But yeah, Chinatown. Highly recommend. I guess final thoughts. I give it 2 thumbs up. One of my favorite films. Definitely took me a rewatch before I fully appreciated it. Good film.
And I give it a good.
I'd give
A
it like
good
an
out
8
of
out of
10.
10. Again, this is the first viewing, and I think I would get more out of it if I were to see it a second time around. But from what I saw, I thought all around, even though it did kind of drop a plot device here and there, it was still a good watch.
Lugia, I believe you are next.
Okay, so, I know I mentioned this movie to you guys at one point, and you were like, what the fuck is that?
Okay.
So, it's been on my mind. I've never seen this movie in full. I've seen like half of it. But I think now it's time to rip off the Band-Aid and see just what the hell this is. So for next week, we are going to be talking about Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Hard Ticket to
What?
Hawaii?
I've never heard of that.
I know,
What?
I told you about it before, and you're like, what is that?
You brought it up once. I've never heard of it. Like, what decade is it from?
1987.
I mean, this is definitely like that sounds like an 80s movie title. It's just Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Hard Ticket to
I-
Hawaii.
Yeah, I do not remember hearing about this film before. Although for some
No,
reason,
he brought it up once. I have no idea what this thing is.
a lot of people in my letterboxd seem to like genuinely like this film a lot. Is this a good film or a so bad as good film?
That's for you to find out.
Next week, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, 1987, directed by Andy Sidaris, who directed a movie called Seven, but not the famous one.
All right, close this out.
Cool. I don't really have an ending.
Ah, forget about it, Red. It's Chinatown.